Welcome back to General English class for second BA, fourth semester, Illuminations 4. This is session number 22. In this session, we are going to see about factors affecting presentation. I am Mercy Victoria, Assistant Professor of English, Government First Grade College, Kanakpura. In the previous session, we saw what is presentation, importance of presentation, what is the purpose of presentation, and factors affecting presentation. We'll continue with factors affecting presentation. We saw in the previous class the following are the factors affecting presentation. We saw 6 factors that could affect a presentation. The 6 factors are audience analysis, communication environment, personal appearance, use of visual, opening and closing of presentation, organization of presentation. We saw about audience analysis and communication environment in the previous session. Let me give you a quick gist on what are these two about. Audience analysis is very essential for a presenter. It is to analyze the audience who is going to attend his or her presentation. Why is it important? Because according to the audience, the style and the type of presentation will vary. Hence, the presenter before presentation has to analyze his audience. Second most important factor that could affect the presentation is communication environment. Apart from the communication environment plays a major role. The environment, the surrounding where the presentation is held, the surrounding which has the stage, speaker, lighting, everything. The audience not only observe the presenter, they also pay a great attention to the surrounding. So, the presenter should make sure that his surrounding or the environment where he's going to make a presentation is in a good form. We will look at the other factors that could affect the presentation. Personal appearance. Before even the presenter gives his presentation, the first thing what the audience or first thing what people notice is the personal appearance. So it plays a major role. So first and foremost, what the presenter should have in mind is that the person who's going to give a presentation should be well dressed. Well dressed may not be a costly dress, but a neatly dressed person, will be able to deliver a good presentation. It is wrong, it will be wrong on the part of the presenter to, go in a shabby clothes. It could be, give them a low confidence level. So, a well dressed presenter not only sends out a message that his presentation is going to be effective, but it also helps him to boost the confidence level. It also creates a good impression on the presenter among the audience. Yes, imagine before even he could talk, the first thing which people notice is the way a person dresses or his dress or her dress, right? So avoid, you know, wearing something very bright or lots of ornaments, especially, uh, female presenters. Try to keep it simple and smart. So always focus on neat and clean clothes. Yes, the dress plays a major role. Personal appearance plays a major role. So make sure the dress what the person is wearing is neat, washed, neatly pressed, and clean. And do check, the person has to check before the presentation. Another thing, fourth thing, what the factor which would affect the presentation is use of visuals. Yes, as we told, as we saw in the previous session, you know, once the presenter has finalized with the idea or theme, he has to collect the material. After collecting the material, he has to organize it effectively and, you know, start preparing the slides. In the slide, he can enhance his presentation by not just words but also through visuals. Using visuals actually enhances the professional image of the presentation. Yes, use of visuals uh, definitely enhances. The other thing what also helps in the presentation is that use of latest techniques demonstrates better preparedness, persuasiveness, credible and interesting compared to not using visuals. So if a presenter uses a visual, it gives out a good message, meaning it shows that he's thoroughly prepared for his presentation, or he knows he's prepared well for the theme or the ideas what he's going to present. He will be ready for persuasiveness. He'll be good at persuading people, and it shows his credibility, and his presentation would be interesting when compared to not using the visuals. So visuals plays a major role. I can give you an example, for visuals. For example, we all watch TV, right? So when we are watching TV, especially the kids or elder people, they we somehow love to watch advertisements. Why are we interested in watching advertisements? One, it could be we're interested in the product what they are showing. Two, it could be the visuals, how it is made, how it is being picturized, right? So uh, apart from the product, we also are interested in looking at the visuals, what is being portrayed on the advertisement, right? So this is the effect of visuals. So make use of the visuals in the presentation or in the slideshow. However, but there are certain factors which we have to keep in mind while using the PPT or while using these techniques. Check the equipment. Yes, the laptops or the computer, what you're going to use in the presentation should be checked beforehand. Because if there is any technical glitches, it might give a wrong impression on the part of the presenter. Yes. So first thing, the presenter should decide on the theme or the idea. He has to analyze the audience. Third, he has to collect the material. Four, he has to organize the material. Five, you know, he has to prepare slides. During the preparation of slides or in the slides, he has to make use of visuals. Why visuals? It portrays the preparedness, the credibility, the persuasiveness of the speaker. After doing all these things, if his or her equipment does not work, it might send out a bad impression. So to avoid all these things, to avoid all these embarrassments, the technical glitches, the person has to check the equipment beforehand. All right, after the presentation, now comes the end of the presentation or before the end of the presentation. There will be certain things which we have to keep in mind after giving the ideas, views, or the theme or the whatever you have prepared. Lastly, there should be a session on opening and closing of presentation. Yes, first and foremost thing is that how you start the presentation and how you close the presentation plays a major role. It is also called as position of emphasis. The first impression is the best impression, we have heard people say, right? So beginning and closing of presentation are always the position of emphasis. Opening with interesting remark creates interest and evoke enthusiasm to listen. Yes, in order to grasp the attention of the audience, a good opening helps the presenter with this. Yes, always start the presentation with an interesting remark. This automatically creates an enthusiasm or urge to listen. What happens if the opening is not good? If there is a poor opening? Poor opening leads to boring presentation. So, as a result, however good, however well you have prepared, the audience may not be interested, in listening to the presentation. Likewise, endings has great impact. End the presentation with vivid, positive image rather than dull closing. So, opening and closing of presentation has to be given importance. Always plan the opening and closing line and picture. This creates a greater impact on the audience because the ending is what they would listen at the end, and that would remain for a longer period. So, if you end a presentation with a good picture or good remark, it would definitely make your presentation an effective one. Next factor that could affect the presentation is organization of presentation. Yes, once after deciding the theme and the idea, after analyzing the audience, then collecting the material, it is to organize the presentation, how we are going to portray, how we are going to present. If you organize the information, it leads to clarity. You're very clear in your thoughts, what you're going to talk, what you're going to present. This clarity gives a confidence in the speaker. Clarity in presentation is as a result of organization of information. Why do you have to organize the presentation? What will you gain out of it? Why is it more important? Organization of information leads to better understanding. The main purpose of presentation is to make them understand, right? So if there is no organization, if you do not organize the information, what you have, it might lead to misunderstanding or people may not understand what you're trying to say. And not only that, it will have an impact on the audience also. They'll feel happy, elated to have listened to something useful. And it also boosts the confidence of the speaker. As a result, they would remember the presentation forever, and that leads to effective presentation. Imagine we have listened to many talks or lectures or presentations. After the presentation is over, we always have a comment, right? An opinion. How was the presentation? Oh, it was dull. It was boring. He was going on and on. There was nothing interesting, right? We keep discussing with our friends. So why does that happen? Why do you feel bored? It all depends upon how the information is organized. So improper organization will not have an influence on the audience. Remember, the purpose of presentation is to persuade the audience, right? So in order to achieve that, the presenter should keep in mind how to organize the information in a good manner. Next most important thing about presentation is that visual and vocal. As I told you earlier, presentation is not just oral communication. We don't give lectures in the presentation. Presentation is something which involves visual and vocal. What is visual and what is vocal? Visual is something where we can see, right? And vocal involves our voice. Visual is seeing, vocal is voice or audio, video and audio, I could say, right? So we will see in detail what are these two elements. Visual element, yes, these are called physical etiquette. One, there are certain tips that should be followed while giving a presentation. First and foremost, the audience, before even you could talk, they notice the presenter. We come to a conclusion before even the person talks. As a student, we all have experienced this. As a teacher, all have experienced this, right? So before even a teacher talks in the class, we judge the teacher by the way the person has dressed, or we judge a person the way he has entered the room, the way he stands, the way he has dressed, all these things, looking at all these things, we make a judgment in our mind, right? So these are called visual elements. So first and foremost thing, what we have to follow is that dress up to look smart. The presenter should look smart and he has to dress up accordingly. What do you mean by dressing up smart? He or she should have a formal dress without, you know, lots of ornaments should be avoided. It shouldn't be a distraction for the audience. Neatly, clean, neat clothes. And the way, second thing, what one has to keep in mind is to be confident and authoritative in your look. Yes, the way you look at the audience is plays a major role. If we find difficulty in looking at the audience, you may it gives out a different opinion. The person should look, have a authoritative look, and that gives a confident in the presenter. And one more thing which the presenter should have in mind is that to establish and maintain eye contact during presentation. Eye contact plays a major role because the listener, if you look at the listener or the audience, or if you have the eye contact with the audience, it means that you get their attention. You know whether the person is listening or not. Try to maintain the eye contact with the audience. And the presenter may have prepared notes for the presentation, but it is advisable to avoid looking at the notes. It might give out a message, a wrong message that the person has not prepared well. And the way, the posture. Next most important thing is the posture. What is posture? The way the person stands on the stage or while making a presentation. Drooping shoulders give out in a wrong message that the person is not confident, low confidence level. So stand upright. Have a authoritative look, stand upright, dress smart, establish a main eye contact, and do not close the presentation in a hurry. Don't try to make your presentation in a hurry. Don't, rush it up. Sometimes we tend to do this without knowingly, right? We might want to finish the presentation and end it, but please don't do that because it might send a not a good message. Take your own time and don't drag too much also. That's also very important. Do not close the presentation in a hurry. And lastly, move out confidently after the presentation. Once the presentation is over, after closing, after the closing's ending sentence, or you have ended the presentation with a good picture, positive note, after that, make an exit. Go out of the room confidently. Don't, even though there will be people who will be nervous after the presentation or glad that the presentation is over, but go, try to leave the hall or the place in a confident manner. That plays a major role because people will be still looking at you even after your presentation till the time the person goes out of the hall or the place. People will have someone or other will be looking at the person. Yes, that is very important. We saw till now about the visual elements. What are verbal elements? As I told you earlier, visual is while seeing, verbal is communication. Again, in the oral communication, what plays a major role? The language. Not only language, but the way the words are used. Yes, try to use the exact words. Try to use simple words so that, see, here comes the audience analysis. Once you know who are the audience, our language also depends upon that, right? So use exact words and pronunciation. This is very important. Try to pronounce the words correctly. Incorrect pronunciations gives out a wrong information, portrays in a different light about the presenter. And don't use long sentences. Keep more sentences short. Simple language, short sentences, and correct pronunciation. Use active voice. This is very important. Address the audience in active voice and address the audience directly. Tell them, tell them directly. You address them as a direct voice. Avoid emphasizing mistakes. Yes, there may be some mistakes, but please try to ignore those mistakes from your part and from the part of the audience. Don't pinpoint. So, as a result, while talking, all these things should be kept in mind. These plays a major role in verbal elements. Vocal elements, voice. Voice has a big part to play, right? You might have prepared beautiful slides with visuals. You might have a good communication, but if there is no enthusiasm in your voice, it will be dull, right? So speak in an enthusiastic manner and a clear voice. Be happy to do the presentation. Speak loudly, not very loud that it may be jarring to the ears. You should speak in a way that it should be not too low or not too loud, medium voice. And always be alert. If you feel that your voice is low or if you feel the voice is loud, be alert and try to control. Be aware of your voice. Yes, these things are very important. So, three most things we have seen in this particular slides are visual elements, verbal elements, and vocal elements. All these three are very important to make a presentation effective. Yes, it's time for recapitulation. We were seeing the factors affecting presentation in this session. We saw four main factors. Among the six factors, we saw four main factors in this particular session. One, personal appearance, where we saw person should dress up smart, neat and clean clothes. Use of visual, make use of pictures in the slides for the effectiveness of the presentation. Opening and closing of presentation plays a major role. It is called emphasis, position of emphasis. The opening gives the listener an enthusiasm to listen to the presentation. A good closing should always have a picture that gives a positive picture so that the audience will have a positive attitude. Organization of presentation. Information should be organized in a way that it gives the clarity to the presentation. It also boosts the confidence level of the presenter. Then we saw about the two important elements, which are visual and vocal elements, which also has verbal elements, wherein in visual elements we saw how the person has to dress smart, and as a result it boosts the confidence and maintaining the eye contact and to talk effectively in a standing in an upright position. And in the vocal elements we saw how a person should talk in such a way by using exact words and pronunciation. The sentences should be kept short and simple, and the voice, the tone plays a major role. It shouldn't be too loud or too low, always be alert so that it could be moderate according to the situation. I hope you all understood the factors affecting the presentation. Let us continue in the next session. Thank you so much.